If you've just started your automation journey, then this video is going to save you a lot of time and money. For those of you who don't know who I am, I'm Kia and I've been working as an automation developer and consultant for quite some time now. And during my time in the space, I've worked as an advisor to businesses literally as small as your local brick and mortar business to multinational enterprises with $200 to $300 million in annual revenue. And the advice that I'm about to share with you in this video is the same advice that I provide all of them. So if you're a business owner that started to look into AI and automation for your business, or even if you're an AI expert that's looking into selling AI and automation services, then I would really recommend you watch this video. But with that being said, let's not waste any more time and get right into it. So the first question that I want to address, which is probably the most important question of all, is what should you actually automate in 2025? Now, if you guys have ever got on a consultation with an automation expert that's telling you they're going to automate your entire business and they've given you 20, 30 different solutions, then I would really recommend ending that call right there and then and running away as fast as you can. Because the reality of the matter is, as of 2025, even if you wanted to automate all of the processes inside your business, you actually wouldn't be able to. And so there becomes the question of what is automatable? So what can you actually automate if you wanted to automate? And in order to answer that question, there's a very simple set of questions you can ask yourself, which will get you to that answer. And the first of those questions, which is the make or break of them all, is the process repetitive, yes or no? And when I say repetitive, I don't mean is that a process that you repeat a lot. What I mean is if you were to get 10 examples of you completing that process, would that process look somewhat 90% the same every single time? Yes or no? Now, if your answer to that question is no, then I would recommend not even trying to automate that process. And I know a lot of you guys that are stuck inside the AI hype cycle are going to say, oh, but AI agents and agentic capabilities and agents this and agents that. But let me remind you, I'm talking about what you can actually implement today in 2025. I'll get to AI agents and the whole story of them a little bit later on in the video. But coming back to the question of a repetitive piece of work. So think of these two different jobs. The first one, someone that's inside admin, and the second one, a firefighter. Now, the person inside admin has a very specific set of processes that they follow every single time, day in and day out. For example, when a client sends you a document, you'll grab that document, download it to desktop, upload it into Dropbox, reply to the customer saying thank you for sending that document, and that's the process. Now, that's a repetitive process that's going to look the same every single time, no matter what document you're receiving or which client you're talking to. Whereas for a firefighter, when a firefighter gets a call to go to an emergency, they have no clue what's actually going on. One day it could be someone that's stuck on the 30th floor, another day it could be a house that's burning down. And so if you wanted to automate the job of a firefighter, you wouldn't be able to set out a specific process so that firefighter would complete every single time that will handle all the different nuances and all the different edge cases of what their job actually entitles. And when you actually think about it, like, what is a business? A business is just a set of standard operating procedures or a set of processes that you complete, which will allow you to make money. And these processes would fall into different categories like the marketing side of the business, the operations side of the business, the sales side of the business, the fulfillment side of the business. And so inside each of these different divisions of the business, there is processes or SOPs that you have to complete. And when you want to think of what you can and cannot automate inside your business, you should grab each of those SOPs and ask yourself whether that process is repetitive, yes or no. Now, for the processes that you found that are repetitive, you should ask yourself, are they time consuming? Meaning that does completing them take a lot of time? Are they high volume? They might not be time consuming, but you might have to do it 1,000 times a day. So are they high volume or are they error prone? Meaning that when you have your employees or humans do it, do they potentially make mistakes that's going to cost your business a lot of money? If the answer to any of these three is yes, and it's repetitive, then that is a process that you can consider for automation. But if all of these three are no, meaning that it's not actually taking a lot of your time, you don't have to do it multiple times a day, and you also don't really have your employees make a lot of errors when they complete that process, then realistically, you should not think about automating that process. So now let's say your process passed those tests and you've realized that it's automatable and potentially there's a reason to automate it. The next question you should ask yourself is, why should I automate this from a business perspective? And realistically, an automation should either save you time, save you money, or make you money. Now, almost everything inside your professional career is a trade-off between time and money. So for example, if you're an employee and you work at a business, what you're doing is you're trading your time and you're receiving money in return for the time that you spent inside that business. And if you're a business owner, it's really the same concept. You're trading your time in order to achieve money. And if you end up hiring employees, then you're trading money in order to save time, in order to make more money. So realistically, everything is a transaction, and every transaction is either trading time or money. And realistically, AI and automation is no different. For an automation to be worth investing in, it should either save you time, meaning that it will allow you to make the same amount of money in less time, which is technically increasing your hourly rate, or it should somehow affect the amount of money you make. Now, when it comes to a company's finances, there's two things you can think about. There's top line, which is like revenue, and there's bottom line, which is profit. Now, revenue is the total amount of money your business makes from all of its sales and actually performing the thing that your business does. Whereas the profits is all of your revenues minus all of your expenses and tax and that sort of stuff. So once you take away all the money that you have to spend, how much money do you actually have left at the very end? Now, if the automation isn't necessarily saving you time, what it should do is you should increase your profits. And for it to increase your profits, it would either have to allow you to make more sales or basically scale and grow and make more revenue, or it should allow you to be making the same amount of money, same amount of revenue, but reduce your actual expenses. But the end goal in both of these cases is to increase the amount of profits you make or the amount of money you actually put in your pocket at the end of the day. So if now you're thinking about that specific SOP and you're thinking that it doesn't save you time, it doesn't lower your expenses, and it doesn't increase your revenue, then realistically, it is an investment not worth making, so don't worry about it. Now, I want to circle back on what I just said. Automation is an investment, meaning that you are making an investment and what you are expecting back from that investment is a return on that investment. Now, for those of you who don't know what return on investment is, ROI, return on investment, basically has a very simple formula. And that's your net profits from making that investment divided by the actual cost of that investment. Now, investing into automations is literally the same thing as investing into hiring employees. You invest on it, meaning you spend money because you think you're going to make more money from that. So you think that your ROI is going to be positive and it's going to be big. And when it comes to investing in automations, you should think of it like any other investment. You should think, is the ROI that I'm going to get from this investment going to be positive, and how big is that ROI going to be? And let's say in a case that you don't want to hire an automation developer to build it for you and you want to build it yourself, you should think, how much time am I spending and how much time am I saving? If I'm spending 30 hours and I'm only saving 5 hours, then realistically, I'm losing 25 hours here. So that is an investment not worth making. But if you guys are spending 3 hours to build an automation that's going to save you 3 hours a day, then that's absolutely amazing. And you should definitely spend your time in doing that automation. But the idea of ROI analysis doesn't stop there. As I said, your business might have 1,000 different processes. 1,000 is probably an exaggeration, but your business probably has like 20 different standard operating procedures that fit within the different divisions that I explained before. And out of those 20 processes, maybe you found out that 5 of these processes are processes that are actually worth automating and are actually automatable. Then the question you should ask yourself is, which one of these 5 processes should I actually automate? Now, some automation experts that you guys talk to will probably tell you, we're going to automate all 5 for you. Let's do all of them simultaneously. We'll start this one, this one, this one, this one, and they send you this really big bill. But what I always tell all my clients is that automation is not a destination. Automation is a journey. And if any of you guys watching this video are automation consultants yourself, you should also be doing this. The vast majority of the revenue my business makes is from return business because we've automated one process and then now we're going to automate another one and then we're going to automate another one. But I don't try and overload all of these or front load all of these right away at the start. What you want to always do is figure out from an ROI perspective, which of these 5 automations will bring you the highest amount of ROI. So what you want to do is you want to maximize ROI right away. You might find a process that will only take the automation developer 2 hours to build, but it's going to save you 100 hours. And you might find another process that is going to save you 80 hours, but it's going to take the automation consultant 25 hours to do. So out of these 2 processes, you'd want to get the 2-hour one out of the way first and then move on to the one that comes after. Now, if you guys are a big enterprise with, as I said, like $200 to $300 million in revenue, that is slightly different. In that instance, you have the resources to have 5 or 6 or 7 different concurrent projects. But for those of you guys who are small businesses, you should always be thinking about automation in terms of ROI. Okay, so quickly recapping, till now we've figured out what process is actually automatable, which processes are worth automating, and which processes you should start with automating first. But there still is a very important question that we haven't yet covered. And that is, when can, or realistically, when should you automate? So in the past, I've had multiple consultations and conversations with people where they come to me with these crazy grand automation ideas and they're like, I want to automate this certain thing. Like, I want to automate on-page and off-page SEO. And then I ask them, okay, well, have you ever done on-page and off-page SEO before? And when I ask them that, they're like, no, what do you mean? I've never done it before, but I want to automate it. And if you're one of those people, then stop right here and rethink everything all over again. Because as I said, when you're building an automation, you're basically getting a certain process and you're mapping that process out, and then you're getting that process to happen automatically without you now needing to actually manually do it. But that process that you're mapping out is realistically the value of that automation. So whether you talk to someone like me with a lot of experience in automation, or whether you talk to someone that has little to no experience in automation, as long as they can build the automation to be robust, realistically, the value of that automation is within the underlying standard operating procedure. Because if the underlying process is bad, then automating that process is still going to give you the bad result. It's just going to do it without you having to manually do it yourself. So for everyone, what I always recommend, even if you're a new business that literally started 2 days ago, is first do that process 4, 5, 6, 10 times yourself and iterate that process to make it a perfect process. Because I promise you, the first time you do something and the last time you do it before you automate it, the process is going to look completely different. And so once you've done those multiple iterations and you've actually built out a process that proves that it 100% works, then you should grab that process and automate it. And for those of you who have built out a process that is already really bad and you're expecting an automation expert to come in and automate that process to suddenly be really good, then I want to remind you guys that the automation expert is just an expert in automating things. They're not an expert in your domain. So with that being said, first do the process, understand the process, iterate the process, better the process, optimize the process, and then once the process is now optimized and it's giving good outputs, then go and automate it. Okay, so that was everything in terms of what is actually automatable in 2025 and what you should actually invest money in automating. But a very important thing that I keep repeating is this is all what is actually working today in 2025. And so everything that I said till now is how you should consider your short-term AI and automation strategy. But you should also have a long-term AI automation strategy as well. And the reason for that is basically everything that I've gone through in the video till now is assuming that you're building out a rule-based automation, or as some people like to call it, a traditional automation. A traditional automation is basically you grabbing a process and mapping that process out from start to finish. So let's say you know that point A is where you start. That's the inputs that come in. Like in the case of the admin, the inputs that come in is, for example, an email from the client with a bunch of documents. So that's the input that you have. And you know, the output that you want to give, or the destination of where you want to go, is you being able to grab those documents and put it inside Dropbox. Then rule-based automation is basically just figuring out an exact process of going up and coming down and then going forward and then going up and then going down. And then if this happens, coming down. And then if that's the case, going up and then going forward and going down until eventually you reach the destination. So it basically requires for you to be able to sit down and map out exactly the process of going from start to finish and handling all the edge cases and nuances that might happen with if statements and conditions and loops and that sort of stuff. Now, the output itself can be different every single time. And that's because, as I said, there is like if statements. So if this is the case, go up. If this is the case, come down. If this is the case, do this. If this is the case, do this. So the output could be different. And plus, you can add large language models into the automation, which will basically allow for you to add a certain level of decision making and logic into that automation as well to handle certain edge cases and nuances. But generally, the process itself would have to be repetitive for you to be able to automate that today in 2025. But there is a concept that's super hypey right now, and I'm sure you guys have heard about it all over the news and all over YouTube, and even I talk about it on my channel as well, and that's AI agents. And in very simple terms, what these AI agents allow you to do from a practical perspective is if you want to go from a point A to point Z, now you don't have to actually define the exact process of going there with all the edge cases and nuances. Now you would just have an AI agent and you would give it an objective of saying, hey, I want to get to point Z, and this is the inputs of what is happening in this instance. And then the AI agent will figure out itself dynamically how it can go from point A to point Z in order to achieve that objective. And then next time you give it another task, this time the AI agent will think about it again and might build a completely different process to go from point A to point Z, which is more fitted for that specific objective and for those specific inputs. So the idea behind AI agents and giving an AI model agency to be able to decide for itself is that we're now able to automate processes that are going to be more dynamic in nature, meaning that they don't necessarily have to be repetitive every single time. And that's when you move more from building out these automation systems into actually building out employees. Because think of it this way, like you might hire an intern that's a developer. So the developer is specialized in developing software for you and writing code. That's their actual job title. But if they're a new intern and you wanted to, for example, get them to go and get you coffee or go and get you food, you would say, hey man, do you mind getting me coffee? I'd really appreciate it. And they will get up, and because they know how to use their phone and they know how to use their hands and legs and they know how to communicate with the cafe person, they can go and grab that coffee for you, come back and give it to you. And so although they're technically not programmed to be able to do that specific thing, they know how to use different tools that they have access to in order to be able to achieve dynamic objectives. AI agents is the exact same thing. What we're trying to achieve is building out these systems that are now similar to employees, where you can give them objectives and they can go and achieve those objectives themselves without you having to sit down and say, this is exactly what you have to do, then you have to do exactly this, then if that's the case, do this, and if that's the case, do this, and so on and so forth. But the reality behind AI agents as of 2025 is that AI agents are still not at a point where you can actually give them full autonomous agency and expect them to give you the perfect output every single time. And if you guys have seen all the cool YouTube demos that people have been making, you might say, oh no, but also someone built a personal assistant that could send out 1,000 emails and it could respond to people and do this and do that. So Kia, you're wrong. But no, what we're talking about is building systems that's actually practical for businesses. Because I can build an AI agent right now that's going to be able to do a really complex task correctly, let's say 20% of the time. I'm able to build a demo that's super sick and it's going to get 1,000, likes and everyone's going to love it. But when I implement that AI agent that has 20% accuracy or 20% consistency in terms of how good its outputs are into an actual business, well then guess what's going to happen? I'm probably going to get sued. Because for every business, one of their most important assets is their reputation. And their reputation comes from being reliable and consistently providing good outputs and good work. And for a lot of big businesses, making one simple mistake can cost them millions and millions of dollars. And so building these AI agents that even, let's say, have 90% accuracy is super cool on paper, but not practical for real world business use cases today as of 2025. And that's the same advice that I share with companies as big as $200 to $300 million in revenue. And it's the same advice I'll share with you today. But with that being said, that is going to change very soon. All the big companies, all the big leaders in the AI space are working on being able to build large language models that are capable of providing good, consistent outputs when they've been implemented as an agent. And they're also working on different protocols to allow for building systems that can achieve complex objectives agentically. And if you guys follow the world of AI, this is things like Model Context Protocol and Agent-to-Agent Protocol by Anthropic and Google. Now, when you have everyone adopt these protocols and you have AI models that are now much more capable than what we have today, then you can actually get AI agents that will have 99.999% accuracy. And then in that instance, I would say everything that I've said to you in the first half of this video, in the first 80% of this video, was a complete waste of time. Don't worry about it. Just focus on AI agents. Because AI agents is going to single-handedly be the biggest tech revolution that humanity has ever experienced. And how I see it is that every single job is either going to completely get changed because of AI agents, or it's going to get enhanced with AI agents. And I also think that every single person is going to have a personal AI assistant that is literally like your 24/7 buddy that's going to do everything for you. So AI agents is going to be absolutely massive in the future. And when I say in the future, I would probably predict like within the next 1 to 1.5 years. But at this very moment in time, with your short-term AI and automation strategy, don't waste your time trying to build AI agents, because you're going to build something that is going to look super cool, but it's not actually going to give you consistent enough outputs for you to leave it to do things with full agency. Now, there's also the concept of like keeping the human in the loop and that sort of stuff. And yes, you can build agentic systems where every time it wants to do something, it'll ask for your permission, which in practice probably would help you like 20% of the way. But realistically, you'd still want the system to be able to do everything itself without having to ask you 24/7. So the real ROI today is in building these AI workflows, not AI agents. But with that being said, you should definitely invest your time in educating yourself about AI agents. And you should also sit down and think, in a world where I could literally give a large language model or an AI agent a task, any task, and it can go and achieve that, what would my industry look like? And then once you've realized what your industry would look like, then you should think, how can I be the first mover inside my industry? Because I promise you, every single industry is going to change, and the businesses that are the first to implement this are going to get the highest ROI compared to everyone else. Now, there is also certain industries like, I don't know, plumbing and service-based businesses where it's like actually manual physical work, which are probably going to be the last to get enhanced with AI agents. But for those of you who do something on the computer, even if you run a service-based business, you still have some part of your business that's on the computer. AI agents are going to completely revolutionize those processes. So when I advise for building AI strategies, I follow the 80-20 rule, focus 80% here and 20% here. Now the 20% you focus here, if you don't have a lot of resources, would probably just be in learning and staying up to date. But the 80% you would invest here would actually be taking action today in order to be a first mover inside your industry. So with that being said, let's say you found a process that's automatable and worth automating, and you've decided that you're going to go and automate this process yourself. I would recommend using 2 tools, because honestly, with these 2 tools, whether you're an automation expert like me that's done it for a while, or whether you're a person that has 0 experience in automation, I promise you that you will be able to automate any process you want, just with a little bit of learning and patience. Now, for actually building out the automation itself, I would well and truly recommend using N8N. N8N is basically just a no-code platform that will allow you to build out that process just by dragging and dropping different items. So as I said, you would build out that process of go up, go down, go left, go right, go up, go down. And then all you have to do is be able to just drag that one and then drop this one here, drag that one, drop this one, and then connect them together, and then figure out data handling and error handling and how they will communicate. And then just by doing that, you've literally automated the process. And now in doing so, there is still going to be a slight learning curve, because you have to understand how that platform actually works, how you can connect to different APIs, how you can get the data from this node to be able to communicate with this node without it actually breaking. And for that, I would really well and truly recommend you guys use Perplexity. Honestly, Perplexity is such an underrated tool as your tech partner. Like honestly, even me, having done this for so long, I still use Perplexity every day, because it's literally like a crystal ball. You can sit there and just ask Perplexity any question you want. It will go and research the internet, find the answer to that question, and then come and give you the exact answer to that question and tell you exactly how you can do it. So for example, if you were stuck and you're like, how do I call this API and let this API communicate with this API? Literally just type it like you would ask me inside Perplexity, and Perplexity will tell you exactly what the answer to that question is. Now, as I said, if you guys want to be able to start automating on N8N with 0 prior experience using just N8N and Perplexity, I would really recommend watching this video. I go through exactly how you can use Perplexity the way I use it to be able to automate anything in a fraction of the time that it will take anyone else. It's a super underrated video, so I'm going to put it in the description down below. And for those of you guys who want to take everything one step further and actually learn automation properly, I have a free Skool community with over 2,300 members, where I have a full classroom section, or basically a course on exactly how you can automate. And inside the community, I update you guys with AI news and updates. And I also have a tech talk section where you can literally ask any question that you have regarding AI and automation. And as I said, it's all completely free, so I would really recommend joining. I'm also going to put the link for that one in the description down below. Now, I hope you guys found this video valuable. If you guys did enjoy this video, I'd really appreciate it if you like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments down below. But otherwise, I'll see you guys in the next video.